So welcome back to my first lecture of the signal processing. So today we are going to cover the signal and systems concepts. So as you know, the particular subjects are devoted to signal and systems because the name of the subject is the signal processing. So what we are concerned about in the signal and systems, we will start with the topic signal and systems. So our main concentration is to find the response of the system, to find the response of system. And what is the system? We will discuss in some while. So let's say we have some electronic component, some electronic gadget, assume that, and this device receives some electrical signal input. Okay, electrical signal input, let's say input 1, and it processes the signals, and some electrical signal, the processed electrical signal will generated as the output, and this is the system. It is called a system, and the processed is the electrical signals. So what do you understand by the response? So in order to understand the response of the system, or you can say to find the response of the system, to find the response of a system, we will use the different types of tools, mathematical tools. We have to use, or we use the following tools. We have tools, and that mathematical tools comes in the under the category of signal systems are the Fourier series, very important, Fourier series. Then we will cover with the Fourier transform, Fourier transform. Then we have the Laplace transform, okay, and then we have the jet transform. So Fourier series, then Fourier transform. We will also cover the DFT, discrete Fourier transform, okay, Laplace transform, then jet transform, in inverse jet transform, and all. Okay, so before going in the detail of the signal and system, we're just going to define the signals. So the basic definition is nothing, but you can say that it is not very precise definition, but you can say that signal is a quantity, right, which has, or we can associate, or having some association of information, having associated some information, okay, or you can say useful information, right? And this information, this useful information, very important, whatever with it has the function of, you can say with it has function of either the time or the space. Generally we will cover with the time, but it may be dependent on the time or in the space. Generally we deal with the electrical signal. Generally we deal with the electrical signal, but not always. It is not necessary that the signal is maybe the always a electrical signal. Okay, so but the electrical signal, the example is the voltage, or you can say the current, and both are, you can say, the function of the time. It both are the v function of time, okay, vt and it. But in general you can say the signal is function of time, right, function of time, but not necessarily, but not it is the necessarily, okay, but not always function of time. Such an example of a space signal is, you can say, the motion of the picture signal, right? Motion of picture signal in 3 dimension, right? That is a function in x, y, you can say the z. So it is the most best example of the also you can say the distribution of charge. Distribution of charge over a body is example of, again, the space dependent of signal is dependent on you can say a space, right? Okay, now come to the next, that is the system. So before going in the detail of the system, definition of system, now we are going to propose a very specific definition of, very precise definition, a very acceptable definition of the signals. And the signals is defined as, it is a physical quantity, or you can say a signal is a physical quantity, right? It is a physical quantity that contain obviously information, that contain obviously that contain information, right? That contain obviously informations and are represented, very important. Now it is very important. Now physical quantity, it should be the physical quantity as well as contain the information and represented as a function of, represented mathematically as a function of one or more independent variable. It is very important definition. So it is a very important criteria of signifies or passing this definition of signals. Signals should be, more importantly, represented mathematically. If the signal is not able to represent it in the mathematical form, either in the form of one function or one or more independent variable, that is, we can't say the signal is, this is a signal. So the important point is, signal necessarily represented in the mathematically as a function of one or more independent variable, right? Now up come to the system. So what is the system? Systems is nothing but the interconnection of electronic components or devices which convert or which process one form of signal to another. So you can say it is the electronic component, or the interconnection of electronic component or electronic devices which process or convert signal one, okay, which convert one form of signal to the another form of the signal. So this is the system. So more precisely you can say a systems is interconnection of electronic devices, or you can say the components which convert or process one form of signal to other form, right? You can also say that a system is an entity that process a set of signals to yield another. You can say it is an entity, right? It is an entity which process one form of signal to the another form of signal. Okay, the system may be made up of, you can say, it is not only necessarily it is a made up of the electrical device, electronics or components or electronic devices, but made up of, the physical component as in electrical, maybe from the electrical, maybe from the mechanical, right? From the mechanical, maybe from the hydraulic. Okay, it may be the different types. Okay, right? It may be having some algorithm. It may be some algorithm in the form of software, right? That computes an output from an input, that may predict the output with the help of some input based on this algorithm. Okay, so finally you can say it as system is nothing but the mapping between the input and output. It establishes a relationship. It establishes, you can say that it establishes a relationship between input and output. Okay, one example, best example is a camera. In camera you can say the input is light. Input is light. And what input is light, which entering on the lens. But what is output? Simple, output is the photograph. Output is photograph. So this machine is processing that light and convert it into some photographs. Okay. Now up come to the next, that is the types of signal. So types of signals. So it will be covered in the next lecture, because it is a request of the many viewers. Please make a short video so that we can understand it beautifully. So thank you.